This is your weekly report on corruption in the Philippine government. The Sandigan has found a former Nueva Ecija town mayor guilty of malversation of 3.5 million pesos in public funds, representing unliquidated cash advances dating back to 2006. In a 31-page decision promulgated on the 2nd of September, the anti-graft court sentenced former Nueva Ecija Mayor Blase Canlas to up to 16 years imprisonment. The accused, being the accountable officer and the recipient of the cash advances in this case, had the obligation to comply with the Commission on Audit rules on its liquidation. Furthermore, as head of agency, or the local chief executive of the municipality, he had the responsibility to ensure that the grant, utilization, and liquidation of all cash advances are in accordance with the rules, the court said. The court also ordered Canlas to indemnify the local government unit's 3.5 million pesos with subsidiary imprisonment in case of insolvency, and likewise ordered his perpetual disqualification to hold public office. The case was decided by the Sandigan Bayan in 2018, but Canlas elevated the case to the Supreme Court. The SC set aside the 2018 ruling and remanded the case back to the Sandigan Bayan for the continuation of proceedings. The Sandigan Bayan convicted of graft former Mayor Lani S. Candolid of Tulunan Town in North Cotabato in the irregular payment of 3.73 million pesos mobilization fee for the rehabilitation of a farm-to-market road project in 2015. Candolida was sentenced to 6 to 10 years imprisonment with perpetual disqualification from holding public office. She was also ordered to indemnify the municipality of 373,997 pesos and the Department of Agriculture of 3,365,978 pesos, or a total of 3,739,976 pesos as actual damages, plus interest rate of 6% per annum. The case against her stemmed from the release of 3,739,976 pesos to Jargon Construction and Supply as mobilization fee for the rehabilitation of Paraiso Dague farm-to-market road project in Barangay Paraiso, Dague in the municipality, even if the project had already been suspended as early as the 29th of January, 2015. During the trial, Candolida denied the accusation of bad faith and claimed that she honestly believed that Jargon Construction was entitled to the release of the mobilization fee upon the issuance of the notice to proceed. However, while the anti-graft court agreed that Candolida's actions were not motivated by any corrupt or ill motive, it found that they were characterized by gross inexcusable negligence. The core issue lies in the timing of the disbursement, not merely in Jargon's entitlement, the court said. Jargon Construction received on the 19th of January, 2015 the notice to proceed dated the 12th of January, 2015. 4 days after receipt of the notice, the firm formally requested the release of the mobilization fee. Pending submission by Jargon of the required bank guarantee, Candolida issued suspension order number 1 dated the 29th of January, 2015. It should be noted that the suspension order was issued to facilitate a revision of the project's design parameters, which ultimately led to a substantial increase in the estimated project cost, a fact of which accused Candolida was fully aware, the court said. When construction activities are suspended, the court said that it only follows that mobilization fees or any advance payment should not be released. The anti-graft court said, verily, accused Candolida's gross and inexcusable negligence is manifest in her act of releasing the mobilization fee despite the suspension of the project. She should have acted with much caution and exercised greater prudence, especially considering that she had just issued a suspension order to allow for the revision of the project's design parameters. Coinciding closely with Jargon's submission of its request for mobilization fees, it also said that Candolida's act of signing the disbursement vouchers notwithstanding the project's suspension clearly demonstrates gross inexcusable negligence in the performance of her duties. The 39-page decision dated the 2nd of September, 2025 was written by Associate Justice Laura Fulacapahimno with the concurrence of Associate Justices Michael Frederick L. Musangi and J. Ermin Ernest Louis R. Miguel. 6 police officers were given citation tickets for various traffic violations after the Philippine National Police conducted a surprise inspection of vehicles inside its main headquarters in Quezon City. In a press briefing on Thursday, the PNP Highway Patrol Group, which led the surprise check at Camp Crame, said that over 300 vehicles and more than 500 motorcycles were inspected. The most common violations were failure to present the official receipt or certificate of registration for their vehicles and delinquent registrations. As for the 6 police officers, HPG spokesperson Lieutenant Nadine Malamang said their violations included the lack of ORCR and the improper use of insignias on private vehicles, especially motorcycles. The HPG issued citation tickets against the 6 we caught, he said. Malamang said the inspection was carried out with other police units to ensure the PNP's compliance with Republic Act No. 4136, or the Land Transportation and Traffic Code of the Philippines. The Department of Public Works and Highways has found former Bulacan 1st District Engineer Henry Alcantara guilty of irregularities over ghost flood control projects in the province. In a 7-page decision released Friday, the 5th of September, DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon ruled that Alcantara committed disloyalty to the Republic and the Filipino people, grave misconduct, gross neglect of duty, and conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service. The ruling stemmed from Alcantara's admission before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee that he approved non-existent projects, despite full government payments already made. Respondents' failure to safeguard public interest, resulting in the payment of ghost projects, tarnished the image and integrity of DPWH. The decision read, Dizon said the ruling was in line with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s directive to hold accountable officials involved in anomalous public works projects. This serves as a warning to all DPWH officials and employees responsible for ghost and substandard projects, because, as the president said, we will not allow corrupt government personnel to go unpunished, Dizon said. Following this, we will recommend to the appropriate offices the filing of criminal charges against Engineer Alcantara and other individuals involved to ensure justice for their blatant abuse of public funds, he added. Alongside Alcantara, dismissal and criminal proceedings will also be pursued against former Assistant District Engineer Bryce Erickson Hernandez, Construction Section Chief Engineer JP Mendoza, and Accountant 3 Juanito Mendoza of the Bulacan 1st District Engineering Office. A village councillor in Lanao del Sur province was injured when he traded shots with law enforcers during a drug-by bust in Bacolod, Caloocan town on Friday, police said. In a statement on Saturday, Lieutenant Colonel Joppy Ventura, speaking for the police regional office, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, identified the arrested village official as Anor Dedagan Sumbi, 36, councilman of Barangay Sugod, Bacolod, Caloocan. Seized from the village official were suspected shabu items worth 2.7 million pesos, the buy-bus money, and a pistol, Ventura said. His companion, Khalid Gubat, a member of the Civilian Armed Forces Geographical Unit, escaped after sensing he and the village councillor were dealing with an undercover agent during the buy-bust. Sumbi opened fire on approaching members of the police's Special Action Force and Provincial Drug Enforcement Unit, triggering a brief firefight. Nobody was hurt among the lawmen. The village councillor is now in the hospital under police watch while charges are being prepared against him. Contractor Pacifico Curly Descare II named several congressmen and Department of Public Works and Highways officials whom he alleged, in his testimony, solicited money from his firm after it won a government project bid. At the Senate Blue Ribbon panel's third hearing on alleged irregularities in flood control projects on Monday, Descare identified the following. Terence Calatrava, former Undersecretary of the Office of the Presidential Assistant for the Visayas of the Philippines, Representative Roman Romulo of Pasig, Representative Jojo Ang of Aswag Ilonggo Party List, Representative Patrick Michael Vargas of Quezon City, Representative Juan Carlos Arjoatade of Quezon City, Representative Nicanor Browns of AGAP Party List, Representative Marcy Teodoro of Marikina, Representative Florida Robes of San Jose del Monte, Bulacan, Representative Alindro Jesus Madrona of Romblon, Representative Benjamin Agario Jr., Representative Florencio Noel of Anweri Party List, Representative Rian and Aragansha of Quezon, Representative Marvin Rillo of Quezon City, Representative Lea de Tarila, Representative Teodoro Haresco of Aklan, Representative Antonita Udalo of Zamboanga Sibugay, Representative Dina Sischio of Calacan, Representative Marivico Pillar of Quezon City. We had no choice because if we didn't cooperate, they would create problems for the project awarded to us through mutual termination or right-of-way issues, both of which would prevent the project from being implemented. After we won the bidding, some DPWH officials approached us to ask for and take their share of the project amount, Descare said. He said the percentages were given in cash, and each transaction has a voucher and a ledger stating which day the money was received by the other party. The percentage they demanded ranged from no less than 10% and went up to 25%, which became a condition to ensure the contract's implementation would not be hindered, he added. Discaya also said the following: DPWH officials are involved in the anomalous bidding process, particularly alleging that these government officials ask for percentages in exchange for projects. Regional Director Edward Virgilio of DPWH Region 5. Director Ramon Ariola III of Unified Project Management Offices. District Engineer Henry Alcantara of DPWH Bulacan 1st. Undersecretary Robert Bernardo. District Engineer Aristotle Ramos of DPWH Metro Manila 1st. District Engineer Manny Buluzan of DPWH North Manila DEO. District Engineer Ijago Pingal of DPWH Bulacan Sub DEO. District Engineer Michael Rosario of DPWH Quezon 2nd DEO. Most of the DPWH officials mentioned repeatedly stated that the money should be delivered to Zaldico, and it should be at least 25%. As for Congressman Marvin Rillo, he mentioned several times the name of Speaker Martin Romualdez as his close friend. Discaya said in Filipino. The Discaya patriarch bared that Rillo repeatedly claimed that his request for funds came from unprogrammed funds and insertions which were approved by Speaker Romualdez. In a sworn statement, partners Cesara and Pacifica also bared that, in some instances, they handed out money to politicians themselves, reiterating that they were forced to pay against their will. They named these politicians as follows: Representative Antonita Udala, along with her husband, Representative Marvin Rillo of Quezon City, Representative Nikki Browns of AGAP Party List, Arturo N. Atade, father of Representative Arjo Atade, Representative Florencio Gabriel Bennoel of Anweri Party List, Representative Alindro Jesus Madrona of Romblon, Representative Benjamin Benji Agario Jr. The Discaya couple also insisted that their firms never established any ghost projects, emphasizing that they thoroughly inspect each one. With this, they underscored their desire to testify and voluntarily serve as a state witness to disclose all corrupt practices of some members of the lower chamber, DPWH, and some government officials. We are humbly asking the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee and President Bongbong Marcos for the protection and security of our family, the Discaya said. The Sandiganbayan has affirmed the graft conviction of former General Manager Robert Dean Smith Barbers and two other officials of the now-defunct Philippine Tourism Authority after denying their motions for reconsideration. Barbers, together with former Deputy General Manager Edgar T. Boca and former Construction Implementation Department Manager Armando L. Miranda, were found guilty beyond reasonable doubt of violating Section 3E of Republic Act No. 1319. The Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, in a decision issued last the 27th of June. Barbers was convicted of 1 count of graft, Miranda of 2 counts, while Boca was guilty of all 3 counts. They were sentenced to a prison term ranging from 6 to 8 years for each count of graft. The cases stemmed from the construction of the 3.7 million pesos sports complex in Intramuros, Manila that was awarded and paid to IA Boss Construction Corporation in 2005 even without approval from the Intramuros administration. In his motions for reconsideration, Barbers argued that there was no showing that he was formally informed of the disapproval by the IA of the proposed PTA sports complex project. Without this proof, Barbers said that there can be no conscious criminal design on his part to participate in a supposed conspiracy to cause undue injury to the government. Boca, on the other hand, said that he merely relied on the regularity of the performance of the functions and duties of the other government personnel. For his part, Miranda argued that the engagement of IA Boss Construction for the PTA sports complex arose from a legitimate public bidding which was participated in by different contractors. However, the anti-graft court found their motions bereft of merit. The court ruled, after a review of the records of the case and the arguments raised by the parties, the court denies the 3 motions for reconsideration. The matters raised by the accused, including those raised by Boca in his belatedly filed supplemental motion for reconsideration, are a mere rehash and repetition of the issues and matters which have already been substantially considered and resolved. It pointed out that Barber's contention that he was not formally informed of the IA's disapproval and Boca's reliance on the regularity of performance of other government personnel only bolsters the finding that they were grossly and inexcusably negligent in carrying out their functions. It stressed that the project would not have pushed through had Miranda not signed the disbursement vouchers for the partial payments to IA Boss Construction Corporation. It added, in this case, the accused cannot invoke the purported lack of irregularity on the face of the disbursement vouchers that would prompt them to investigate further, precisely because it is the accused's own gross and inexcusable negligent acts and omissions that led to the signing of these vouchers and payment to IA Boss Construction Corporation. The 17. Page resolution was written by Associate Justice Colby Miranda with the concurrence of 6th Division Chairperson Associate Justice Sarah Jean T. Fernandez and Associate Justice Kevin Nasby Vivero. 4 government workers under the City Engineering Office, particularly the Supply and Property section, are in hot water after Mayor Greg Gasatea discovered 786 hardened cement bags at the CEO warehouse in Barangay Takiling and another storage facility in Barangay Alagis here over the weekend. We will definitely relieve them of their functions effective today, Gasatea said, as he announced the issuance of a show cause order to these 4 employees in Monday's press briefing at the Bacolod City Government Center. He said they are assigned to accept and release materials being purchased by the city for the projects. Gasatea conducted a spot inspection on Saturday, the 6th of September, and discovered 4,686 cement bags from the Bacolod City College compound in Barangay Takiling, and 100 more in another warehouse in Barangay Alagis that have solidified and become unusable. It could have gone a long way for building additional classrooms, barangay infrastructure projects, and more, said Gasatea, who expressed disappointment upon discovering the wasted construction materials estimated to be worth 1.1 million pesos. This is an insult to the taxpayers. Instead, it became dust, neglected, wasted, and gone, the mayor said, adding that he has ordered a full investigation on the matter. Heads will roll. This will not be swept under the rug. We cannot and we will not allow this kind of neglect to go unanswered, he added. Gasatea said that they will assign a new team in the Supply and Property section while the investigation is ongoing. There's something that needs to be done. This might be painful and there will be resistance, but we will do something out of the box. If this means filing cases, we will do so, he said. City engineer Loban Rafael Ceballos confirmed that some of the cement bags have been stored for several years, dating back to when supplies were moved from the old storage area during the construction of the BCC complex. The hardened cement came from the old warehouse. That's why we made it into a bedding for the new cement to avoid damaging the stocks, but due to the number of stocks, this happened, Ceballos said. Gasatea said that he has ordered Ceballos to explain and submit a written report on the status of all projects being implemented by the city government under the supervision of the CEO within 24 hours. He added that he has received reports that some projects have yet to be completed since 2022 or earlier. We will have an overhaul of the department, considering what we have discovered, Gasatea said. Gasatea said that they will follow where the evidence will lead them. We will wait for the outcome of the investigation of the city legal office for the appropriate legal action, the mayor added. The discovery was a result of the mayor's directive to the newly formed inventory team to conduct a comprehensive audit of all government assets, including stocks and supplies under the CEO. Gasatea said that they will convene a disposal committee to assess and study the legal way of disposing the hardened cement and determine if they can still be used. He added that he has instructed to prepare or rent a warehouse where they can put the cement bags that can still be used as part of the actual inventory. We will check if the list provided is similar to the data from the actual inventory, he said. Gasatea told department heads during Monday's flag-raising ceremony to inform him if there are similar situations to enable the city to address these. Don't surprise me and the people about these situations in your offices, if there is, he said. To prevent future wastage, the local government has initiated the construction of a P67 million warehouse in the Bredco area, with completion expected within the year. We will ensure that these things will not happen again in the city, Gasatea stressed. Gasatea said that he doesn't want to pinpoint the possible responsibility of the previous administration and would just follow the flow of the investigation. This is nothing political, as these are day-to-day obligations and responsibilities that need to be addressed, he added. He said that he is in good terms with former mayor and now Bacolod City Representative Albi Benitez. We are okay, politically and professionally, he said. The Court of Appeals has dismissed a barangay chair for soliciting 1 million pesos from a landowner in exchange for his help in evicting those illegally occupying a property in Balintawak, Quezon City. In a 19-page ruling promulgated on August 29 and made public recently, the CA's 9th Division found barangay donor Josefa Chair Luigo Munoz administratively liable for grave misconduct and neglect of duty. He was ordered dismissed from his post, along with the cancellation of his eligibility and forfeiture of retirement benefits. He was also perpetually disqualified from holding public office and taking civil service examinations. The case stemmed from the complaint filed by Teodora Angeles Santos before the Office of the Ombudsman for grave misconduct, conduct prejudicial to the best interest of service, and violations of the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards against Munoz. Santos claimed that Munoz asked her for 1 million pesos in exchange for assistance that he would extend in removing the individuals, tenants and businesses illegally occupying the parcel of land she and her siblings owned in Balintawak, Quezon City. While Munoz denied her allegations, the ombudsman found him administratively liable for grave misconduct and conduct prejudicial to the best interest of service on the 23rd of January, 2023. Upon appeal, the ombudsman ruled that he was guilty only of simple misconduct and imposed a fine equivalent to his salary for 6 months. Santos elevated the case to the CA, which ruled that the affirmative declaration of her secretary and personal assistant that Munoz solicited money from her prevails over his bare denial. Indeed, it has been repeatedly held that denial is a self-serving negative defense that cannot be given greater weight than the declaration of a credible witness who testified on affirmative matters, the appellate court said in the ruling penned by Associate Justice Selma Palacio Aleras. Members of the Progressive Youth of La Union filed a graft complaint before the Ombudsman against 2nd District Representative Dante Garcia for allegedly using dummy contractors to reportedly control hundreds of millions worth of government projects. In a complaint dated the 8th of September but released to the media on Tuesday, the group represented by an individual referred to as a John Doe accused Garcia of possible violation of Republic Act No. 3019, or the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, and RA No. 6713, or the Code of Conduct for Public Officials. They likewise asked the Ombudsman to preventively suspend Garcia while the case is being investigated. Among the projects mentioned in their complaint were the construction of flood control structures in Barangay Laquisha and Barangay San Fermin in Caba, worth 48.9 million pesos each. Another one is the construction of slope protection works along Nagilian Caba Road worth 241.2 million pesos. The La Union Youth Group claimed the projects suffered infirmities in the processing, bidding, and mandatory processes as they were implemented without observing government protocols and regulations pertaining to government projects. Bidding processes conducted, should there be any, are just mere acts of formality, as even before the actual bidding, the projects were already given to the intended favored contractor or to Garcia's construction firm, the group further claimed. Evidence of these violations could be secured and verified upon thorough investigation and or on-site inspection, it added. In line with this, the anonymous complainants are seeking to suspend Garcia in the conduct of an in-depth investigation by the anti-graft body into the lawmakers' involvement in the anomalies projects. Inquirer.net reached out to the office of Representative Garcia, where a staff member said she would relay the message to the lawmaker. However, follow-up calls have since gone unanswered. Based on reports, Senatro Panfilo Lacson revealed last month the appearance of 1.6 billion pesos in funds for flood control projects in La Union, even though it was not listed in the National Expenditure Program but was included as a 2024 project. Of the 1.6 billion pesos fund, contracts worth 627 million pesos were awarded to only one contractor. Several district engineers of the Department of Public Works and Highways and 3 contractors are liable for fraudulent flood control projects in Bulacan worth 342.66 million pesos, according to the Commission on Audit. COHM Gamaliel Cordoba yesterday transmitted to the Office of the Ombudsman fraud audit reports covering 5 flood control projects implemented by the DPWH Bulacan 1st District Engineering Office. The reports will aid the Ombudsman in its ongoing probe into anomalous infrastructure projects nationwide, the COA said. The COA's findings shall form part of the evidentiary record, and may be used as basis in the determination of administrative and or criminal liability, including possible charges for graft and corruption, against the persons involved, they said. Identified as liable for ghost and substandard flood control projects were 13 former officials of the DPWH Bulacan 1st District Engineering Office, namely District Engineer Henry Alcantara, Assistant District Engineer Bryce Erickson Hernandez, Project Engineers Paul Jason Duyer and Merg Jaron Laos, Construction Section Chief JP Mendoza, Planning and Design Chief Ernesto Galang, Maintenance Section Officer in Charge Chief Lorenzo Pagtalunan, Quality Assurance Chief Noberto Santos, Accountant Juanito Mendoza and Engineers Holo Mari Teao, Lemuli Frame Roque, John Michael Ramos and RJ Domasig. Executives of 3 private contractors were found liable, namely Mark Allen Arevalo of Warao Builders, Maria Roma Angeline Romando and officers and board members of St. Timothy Construction Corporation owned by the Discare family and Sally Santos of SYMS Construction Trading. Covered by the audit reports are the construction of flood mitigation structures in barangays Francis and Star, Lucia in Calumpit town, with the total contract cost of 77.199 million pesos and 74.041 million pesos, respectively, both backed by WAO builders. Rehabilitation of the river protection structure in Barangay Bulusan in Calumpit, with the total contract cost of 96.498 million pesos awarded to St. Timothy Construction Corporation, was also covered by the report. Another project flagged by the COA was the flood control structure covering barangays Bugian, Sergio Bayan, Balite, San Marcos and Palembang, also in Calumpit, with a total contract cost of 39.193 million pesos, awarded to St. Timothy Construction Corporation. State auditors also flagged the construction of a reinforced concrete river wall supposedly located in Barangay Pil and Baluag town, with a total contract price of 55.731 million pesos awarded to SYMS Construction Trading. In Barangay Francis, inspectors found shoddy workmanship issues in a project declared as 100% complete, the COA stressed. Another key finding was that WAO Builders was paid an additional 3,130,041 pesos without any documentation explaining why costs went up, contrary to the provisions of the Government Procurement Reform Act. It added, in Barangay Santa Lucia, inspectors saw the dike tilting, misaligned and riddled with cracks. The COA said the project was declared almost 90% complete, but auditors could not confirm this on site. In Barangay Bulusan, state auditors found a massive 38.493 million pesos discrepancy in the project cost and evaluated cost. Auditors also noted there was a cost increase linked to an undated variation order worth 2,893,365 pesos, which did not have any details or location in the as-built plan, they said. In Barangays Bugian, Sergio Bayan, Balite, San Marcos and Palembang, the contractor only installed 24,232 kilos of steel plates even though the DPWH paid for 48,465 kilos, resulting in an overpayment of 3.034 million pesos. In Barangay Pil, auditors said no construction was found at the site. There is a clear indication that the project has not commenced implementation yet. Based on records, SYMS Construction Trading has been fully paid as of the 30th of June, the COA said. Newly appointed Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon also transmitted to Acting Ombudsman Dante Vargas a separate investigation report by the DPWH Internal Audit Service. The IAS is working closely with the COA fraud audit team in probing other flood control projects, Dizon said. There will be more investigation reports in the coming days, he noted. Accompanied by Dizon at the Ombudsman, Cordoba said 20% of flood control funds went to Central Luzon, half of which went to Bulacan. Public Works Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral has submitted her courtesy resignation, Dizon said yesterday, but he has not yet accepted it for lack of a replacement. Cabral allegedly contacted senators and congressmen and solicited budget insertions in the national expenditure program of the DPWH, according to Senator Panfilo Lacson. Dizon said he ordered Cabral to appear before the Senate. DPWH Central Luzon project engineer Julia will be dismissed due to his involvement in the ghost and substandard flood control projects in Bulacan, Dizon noted. That's all for this week. I'll see you next Friday with more stories of corruption and foolishness within the Philippine government.